AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
Hello, everybody. I am Roger B. This is Locked and Loaded, and you're listening to America's Web Radio. Today, we're going to cover a few things about being locked and loaded, ready, prepared. And I'm going to warn you about a few things also because the election is coming, and it looks like no matter which way it goes, there is going to be a situation where you may run into violence somewhere.
And remember, chance favors the prepared mind.
That's right, and the prepared person. But prepared mind, yes, be prepared for any situation.
You bring up, it's a great topic for you, Roger, and because we've actually got one side in this race that is encouraging riots. They're encouraging that certain voters to get out on the streets and get out on the streets.
Well, last night in Pennsylvania, was it Philadelphia?
It was terrible.
They had a riot.
Cops got injured.
Yeah, one of them I think actually had to stay in the hospital overnight. The other were treated and released, but still. And yet the media is completely silent on this. They don't want you to know that.
Well, they don't want you to know
that the burn, loot, murder crowd, the anti-American fascists are out there causing havoc.
The media doesn't want you to know, and I'll say this is me saying this, not Locked and Loaded, but the Biden voter is the one out there rioting. The Biden voter is the one out there burning buildings down and trashing businesses and looting.
Most of them are the ones threatening.
And they're the ones threatening. Yeah.
Most of the people who support him are in these radical groups, which he says, Antifa's just an idea.
It's just an idea, yeah.
Well, last night, 30 cops were wounded by an idea.
Last night, an idea smacked somebody over the head, ran a car through
hit a policeman with a vehicle, threw rocks at police. It was just an idea, though.
Last night, 30 officers were injured by an idea.
So if he's that out of touch, you got to realize this guy, I don't know. I mean, I don't know why he's running anyway. He doesn't understand what's going on, I don't think.
I don't know how he has support, but the guy doesn't know where he is half the time. He doesn't know who he is, and he doesn't know who he's running against or what he's running for.
Well, he knows. He knows Corn Pop is a bad dude.
But Corn Pop's a bad dude.
And you know, and I'm running because of the thing. Come on, man.
The thing. That we're free. The thing.
And we're gonna defeat George.
We're gonna defeat George, and he's running for the Senate, and he sounds like this. Come on, man.
Yeah, because he wears his mask everywhere, right? Yeah.
He'll put on that mask in a parking lot in front of cars. So people are barricaded in their cars, and Biden's up there with his mask on going, come on, man.
You know what? Not that I would advocate this, but it would be funny just to drop a big stink bomb in the middle of that. People would be rolling their windows up. They couldn't back out. They couldn't get out of there.
Oh, they wouldn't be able to leave fast enough.
They'd have a taste of a Biden presidency.
Hey,
it would stink, and you couldn't get away from it.
It would stink, and you can't run away from it. Oh, what a horror story. I mean, I know it's Halloween, Roger, but why you got to scare the listeners like this? Man.
Biden presidency. Yeah. I wonder if anybody put that in their yard. Mr. President showed a picture of Biden. That'd be the scariest thing I could think of.
That would be one of the best Halloween decorations, a Biden presidency. Somebody, oh my gosh.
Ooh, like I said, that's the scariest thing I could think of.
The sad thing is it could happen. I mean, I don't think it's going to happen, but my gosh, we just don't know at this point. But I will make the prediction that all the polls are going to suddenly tighten by the end of the week because they're going to want to save face.
Maybe, yeah. But I hope the results are that where we end up with a president who will support the Second Amendment, as he's done pretty much so far, although I have another story now about
it ain't going to be Kamala.
The BATF apparently, or ATF, I don't think they're the Bureau anymore, they're just the ATF, and they are reconsidering their position on pistol braces, which if you know, that's one way to make a pistol perform as a short barrel rifle without having to go through the tax stamps and the $200 fees and the 9 to 12 months worth of background checks and waiting. And now they may be reconsidering their position on this. And I'm pretty sure if Biden wins, they'll pull all that back, and everybody who has a pistol brace is going to have to hand it in, put it on a rifle, or do something with it, or be considered a federal felony. So it's going to be interesting to see it. Now, there are millions of these in civilian hands already, millions. They estimate approximately 1.5 to 2 million of these are in civilian hands already. by major manufacturers, and there's probably a bunch of other manufacturers that may not be major, but they have pistol braces out there too. So basically going to turn millions of Americans into felons overnight by changing I guess it's not even a law, a regulation, a rule, a judgment.
Probably a regulation.
They're going to make a judgment on a regulation that they have previously said was okay, and now they're going to flip-flop on it and make millions of Americans into felons.
Well, that's their goal.
Yeah, I
They
guess.
want owning a gun to be a felon. So
Right.
This is just
Now,
the beginning.
New Zealand, I saw a report in New Zealand the other day. They have thousands of, let's call them military-styled weapons. The left calls them assault weapons.
Right.
Although mine are strictly defensive weapons when I had them. So, yeah. But anyway, so they apparently have to turn in all these weapons. And the numbers have come in, and out of the thousands they have out there, they have received 37 have been turned in out of thousands. So apparently, New Zealanders are becoming non-compliant. That's the easiest way to fight tyrannical laws.
And they're probably waving an American flag in their homes. To do
Yeah, we're thinking, I need to read up on the American Revolution.
American Revolution. Yeah.
Hell, we may have to read up on the American Revolution.
Yeah, that's true.
God, I hope it doesn't come to that, though.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, election night is gonna be a scary time. Normally, I'd say go out, celebrate with friends, commiserate with friends, whichever side you're on. Do what you need to do. But in this case, on this election night, I would suggest staying home, keeping the doors locked, turn on all the outside cameras, make sure there's going to be no quote unquote peaceful protesters coming into your neighborhood
Yeah.
with their peaceful Molotov cocktails and their peaceful rocks and their peaceful guns. In fact, the California BLM leader has made a statement where he says we need to be armed. This is the BLM leader in California saying we need to be armed. Now, these are the same people who are trying to defund the police departments. So basically what you're going to end up with is you're going to have, I guess, gang leaders or criminal gangs or drug gangs trying to take over the job of ruling over people. Not the police don't rule over people, but they're going to take over. They're going to try and take over enforcement of whatever rules they deem necessary, or they're just going to go about their criminal business without any police to interfere. So if you're all for defunding the police, I suggest you put a sign in your yard that says that I voted to defund the police and I don't believe in guns. That would be just great.
Hey, I've said it before. If you're so anti-gun, then put a sign in your yard that says this is a gun-free house.
Right.
Please,
Yeah.
please do that.
The fact that you have protection based on somebody else's exercising their right is phenomenal. Now, granted, if you don't believe in guns or you don't want one, but you believe people should have them, but you personally just don't feel like you're responsible enough, or they scare you too much, or you're not ready, by all means, don't buy one, don't get one. But if you believe in the right to have one, but you don't want one yourself, then find somebody else who lives near you who you could call to say, you know what, I'm feeling a little scared. There's burglars here. Can you come over and help me? Or, I think there's people coming down the street trying to set stuff on fire. Can I come over to your house and hang out for a while? Get a friend who's got guns and knows how to use them if you don't feel comfortable with it.
Right. If you're not comfortable, then hey.
And there's a lot of people say, I don't care if you have a gun. I personally just don't want one, or I don't feel comfortable with it.
Nothing
I
wrong
had a
with
bad experience. I don't know. The noise scares me. Whatever your reasoning is, as long as you're for the Second Amendment, though, then find a friend who can help you.
It's okay to be, if you're one of those people out there who are afraid of guns and you don't want one, that's fine. Just don't tell me
Right.
not to have
Well,
one.
that's typical of American freedom.
Exactly.
In my eyes, you can stand for whatever you want or sit for whatever you want, but don't tell me what I have to stand up or sit for.
Yeah, exactly.
If I want to sit down when the BLM anthem is played, I can do that.
Right.
If I want to stand for the national anthem, I'll do that.
Do that too.
I'm not going to sit there on my hands. I'm going to stand up, hand over my heart, and sing most of the words.
That's right.
I do confuse two verses, but I'm learning. I'm working on it.
You think we'd have it down, but now I can.
I know. Every day of an elementary school, they play that over the intercom.
Yeah. Oh man. Roger, since we have some listeners in New York, I did want to just touch on this real quick. Did you hear about the police officer who was in his car and there were some people around him and approaching the car and he started going Trump 2020, Trump 2020. Over and
No,
over.
oh, that's great.
Yeah. So you had a New York PD officer, and I would love to get Mark the Shark, who's one of our great listeners up in New York.
He's a contributor as well.
Well, I would like to get his opinion on this because, and I'm sure he knows something about this because this police officer has been suspended
Oh,
without pay.
wow.
Now, I know
Well,
there are much other grievances where officers will get suspended with pay, but they suspended this guy without pay, and I'm
they're
sure
not.
that was
Well, they're not
douchebag.
supposed to express
No,
political
I don't have a
opinions while in
problem.
uniform
I don't
on
have
the
a
job.
problem with the suspension. I don't have a problem with the investigation because you're supposed to be apolitical as a police officer.
Yes.
I have a problem with it without pay because if he's getting treated harsher because De Blasio is a
Doesn't like Trump?
fascist, then I want Mark to be on that case since Mark is involved with the FOP.
That's right. He's
I do take humor in the story. If you haven't, just go look up the video. It is hilarious.
now. Are the people outside the car just getting all riled
Well, there were
up?
people outside the car, and there were people moving around, and you can just see them. Some of them were okay with, some of them weren't. But it was hilarious because he's just going Trump 2020, Trump 2020 through his.
Well, now they
bullhorn.
had
It's great.
a rally up in New York, a pro-Trump
Yeah.
rally.
They had a Jews for Trump
rally.
also, where the Biden voter attacked him.
That's right. And the fascists, as usual, try to shut down
Shut
people
down, yeah.
who disagree with them. Now, the Jews, I'm surprised they're standing up. A lot of the people on the Jewish side tend to be more liberal,
And it
which
blows
shocks
my
me
mind.
to no end.
Look, they're giving our people a bad name.
That's right. It's crazy. But, stand up for who stands up for you. That's what I would do, personally.
Exactly.
But that's just me. Maybe I'm crazy.
If the day ever comes and the Democrat Party starts to stand up for Israel, starts to stand up for the Jewish people, and doesn't pay Iran and the number one sponsor of terrorism,
Doesn't support
$150
terrorist
billion
states in cash.
then maybe we can support the Democrats. But right now,
Until
as a
then-
Jewish person, you cannot support today's.
Oh,
Democrat
what
Party.
about the rapper dude, 50
50
Cent?
Cent, who doesn't want to be 10 cent?
And his ex-girlfriend apparently shamed him into retracting his statement.
I hope he stands fast.
No, he won't.
Stands fast.
Oh, yes, Massa, I'll do what you tell me
Yeah,
to do.
man, well, let's-
Man, we fought a war so black people would have the right to make their own choices, make their own decisions, and vote for whoever the hell they want
The
to.
Republican Party was founded really as a
To abolish
civil rights
slavery.
party. It was the Civil Rights Party founded. Most black people were part of the Republican Party when the founding of the Republican Party.
Oh, yeah.
It was the Republicans that voted unanimously for civil rights.
Oh, wait. The longest filibuster in history. The history of the United States, the longest filibuster in history was 75 days.
Yep, and that was the Democrat Party
Filibustering the Civil Rights Act. I mean, oh my God, how could you stand up for a party like that?
Exactly.
They fought to keep oppression in place.
And the leader of this party right now, Biden, the de facto leader, which I think is a Trojan horse for Kamala.
Yeah, I don't think
but this
she's
guy-
much better.
This guy was engaged in segregation back in the day. Remember, this guy's been in politics for 50 years.
I know.
He's on video with segregationists against busing, and I mean the
Yeah.
guy. It's
Well,
this
what
is the guy who said, "I don't want my kid going to a jungle school."
Yeah, he
That
said
was
it'll be a
Biden.
racial jungle. That was Biden.
Biden.
But anyway, the BLM says they want to arm themselves. So what can I tell you? Arm yourself as well. This
Arm
is not
yourself
going to
better.
end well if you are not prepared. And even if you don't believe in the guns, then get better locks for your houses.
Right.
Get
Go spend some
By
time
the
with
way,
friends
I
with
want to step
guns.
in here and put a disclaimer in that these are opinions. No one in this room is an attorney, thank goodness.
right.
These are opinions, and what you all said a minute ago if, and I agree with, if they don't want guns or you don't want guns, but have a neighbor or be able to call a neighbor, but we're not suggesting that, we're just throwing, that's an idea, and the neighbor has to have his rights and has to know his legal
Right.
position if he were to come over to your house.
Right. That's why I said go over to their house, because that way he can protect you as part of his house. The castle doctrine exists in many states, so that would be the best thing to do is to go to somebody who has guns that get under their protection, because they can protect you if they're in their castle. I've mentioned many times, don't get involved in something you don't know. Like you see a guy beating his wife out on the front lawn. You know what? You could go there and try and help, but chances are she's going to turn around and point at you and say, you got in the way, you screwed things up, it was your fault. And she'd jump back with the guy who was just beating her up. So
Well, these are only, what you hear on the station is not necessarily the station's views, or we may agree with those views, but we're not taking a position as far as telling you what to do.
right, we're just throwing things out there, see what sticks to the wall. We're making spaghetti here.
That's right.
And it's a little messy.
Spaghetti tacos for
That's
Taco
right.
Tuesday.
That's right. Just throw it out there because, there are other ways to get yourself protected or provide protection for yourself and your family if you're not willing to have a gun. Like I say, increase the security on your house, add cameras, add locks, get better doors. Find a neighbor who you could run to if you had to, if you don't have a gun or you're not ready to buy one yet, for whatever reason. Don't leave yourself unprotected, or at least prepare for scenarios. Use non-lethal force, There are solid paintballs, there's airsoft guns, anything that's a deterrent would be good if someone was attacking your house. Now, granted, they may not be that effective, but it may be enough if they see something in your hand and they, hear rounds whizzing past, they may not know what's going on. It may be enough to cause confusion. So, of course, there's always a flamethrower, which are legal in most states, so consider that as well. Of course, you have to watch out with where you're pointing that thing because you don't end up burning your house or your neighbor's house down by accident, trying to burn a loot murderer, anti-American fascist down.
Just don't burn the flag.
That's right. Yes. Be careful.
And if you do, don't do it in front of any of us. This is
Well,
a public service announcement.
If you do, make sure it's done properly as a disposal
okay, that's
method.
different.
Yes.
That's different. Now, there is a proper way, yes. But if you're an Antifa Biden voter, don't you come in front of my house and
Well, yeah,
burn my
there was the
flag.
guy whose house was attacked because he was flying an American flag.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I know it's happened.
So
in
be
many- It's
aware.
happened in
You may
several
be
places.
targeted if you have Trump signs in your yard or if you have flags out
Yeah.
there, and it just irks me so bad that these people are trying to intimidate people who stand up for somebody they don't want.
Yeah.
They're pushing their agenda so hard. They're standing up for their rights while trying to suppress yours. Oh, yeah, let's bring him in.
We got a call coming in from New York.
We
we're
got
gonna-
Mock the Shark.
You know, this
Our
would be
official
great. Yes.
legal advice and counsel is on the line.
We'll get this call in from New York going, and we'll ask Mark about this. What I was talking about, this cop being suspended without pay.
Well, here he comes. Hello, are you
Good
there?
afternoon.
Hey.
It's the radio jockeys that I love to listen to every week.
Your favorite show ever, or your favorite day of the week?
We really have to figure out the non-lethal election night mechanics here, so we'll have to work on that.
Well, there are websites that sell non-lethal ammo for shotguns.
You can get beanbag load for a shotgun.
Beanbag, rubber bullets, rubber shot.
And as we've suggested to you before, paintballs.
Frozen, solid nylon.
Frozen, solid nylon, yes.
These are our opinions, not the station's opinion.
That's right.
That's right. So, Mark, hey, I got a quick question for you. I'm sure you heard us talking about the NYPD police officer who was suspended for he was on a bullhorn in his car going Trump 2020, Trump 2020, but they suspended him without pay.
Yeah, I mean, that incident was an interesting incident because, quite frankly, in the heat of any kind of an arrest, you're going to hear expletives without a doubt. And that's never been an issue for an NYPD officer. I mean, you're physically intertwined with somebody trying to kill you, and you're trying to arrest them. And it basically comes down to, hey, we're people. We're not robots.
Now, from what I understand, he was just sitting in his car while there were people milling about outside. He was just making this statement over his
Well, what
loudspeaker.
they're claiming is he was having some kind of battle now with one of his, allegedly the gentleman who did this was apparently mentally ill. But that could be said for most Biden voters at this point in time.
Correct.
So that's not really the criteria I'd be using to defend, the gentleman who they were arguing with. But the
Gentleman.
bottom line is, let's look at New York City as a whole. I mean, it is going to be the blueprint for disasters across this country.
Well, crime is up tremendously from what I've seen.
267%. Wow. It's out of control. And here's the biggest problem. You have no support for the cops from the mayor. This guy, he should get himself one of those giant joints and sit in his car and stay there.
Now,
You know, they're complaining that he doesn't come to work on time. The less time he's in that mansion doing the city's business, the better New York City will be.
Yes, it's true.
the more he delays his obligations, the better off the city will be. Now, isn't it true that what was I going to say? That the New York police officers are trying to retire in record numbers? And
They are. In fact, what they've done, believe it or not, they have actually stopped retirements. The city has put in a moratorium on retirements at this point.
Wow.
Because there
Gotta
are
be
so many
kidding me.
officers saying, I don't need this anymore.
Wow.
Well, when you don't have support from your commander-in-chief, how do they
yeah.
expect you to do your job with confidence?
That's, you know what? You just said the key phrase. They don't want them to do their job.
They don't. They don't.
They
They
don't
wanna
want them to do
defund
their
them.
job. I saw pictures. You were talking about the Jews for, and one of the reporters said Jews for Jesus. It was not. It was Jews for Trump.
It was.
So that rally was a peaceful rally, and in fact, I believe at one point Mayor Giuliani was involved in that.
Does that mean that-
He was, and they attacked his car too.
Are they
they
saying
have
Trump is the
guys-
savior?
Yeah, I'm telling you. They have people right in front of police throwing rocks, throwing eggs, ripping property off of the cars, and nobody intervenes.
Right.
This is where this Second Amendment is going to be real important, because we are going to lose control of this country.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the
Sense
sad-
it happening now.
The sad
And
thing
the
about
problem is going to be is that these blue cities where everybody's fleeing like as if it was on fire, and most of the places are on
it,
fire.
some of them are.
I don't know if you saw some video from Philadelphia.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. it's
Burn, loot,
terrible.
murder.
They're getting
But-
started ahead
and
of
this
time.
is becoming acceptable. If somebody is in an altercation, attempts to kill a cop with a knife, and lunges at him, now the officer's supposed to get his psychologist on the line to see how to deal with the guy.
Can he just throw a timeout symbol and say, wait, let me get somebody on the line to talk to you?
Let me call
You
De
know,
Blasio and
here's
see
the
what
problem.
I can do.
If you emasculate the cops, you better bring body bags.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if anybody understands what a cop does. They are that thin blue line before you become the victim.
The victim. Yeah.
Well, also, though, you got to realize a lot of cops are just not responding to calls, or they're responding minimally to avoid their exposure to possible legal action.
Because here's the other thing. They want to do away with qualified immunity.
Ah,
And briefly,
I know.
what qualified immunity is, it gives officers a wall against civil litigation
Right.
from arrests and things that they do on the job. You want to do away with qualified immunity? Let's do away with qualified immunity for Congress, for the Senate, the lying pieces of
Yeah,
garbage like
exactly.
Blumenthal
Right.
you were talking about
Yeah.
before. You want to do away with qualified immunity? Let's start with them.
How about
Let's see
Hunter
how that
Biden? Let's
works.
start with him.
Yeah.
And then Joe Biden.
We've
You know, if you don't want to be held accountable, why should you want to hold others accountable?
Well, Mark, you're 100% right. We've talked about this before, too, on my show as well. If you want to take away qualified immunity off of police officers, then right now, the United States Congress, House representatives and senators, can lie to your face, and they are protected by qualified immunity.
Absolutely.
And if that should not be allowed, but a police
I
officer, man.
I always enjoy being threatened by a senator.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
they can do it. And they can do it. As David mentioned earlier, they're doing it now. They were threatening Amy Barrett.
And that violates one of our essential premises that the country was founded on: equality under the law.
Under the law, yeah.
Which-
Well, the new North Korean media in this country have been running the campaign for Biden.
That's true, because he ain't running it.
Him and Corn Pop are getting nothing
You know,
done.
Cor-
You know what's
Gorm-
interesting? I'd love to get your opinions on this. Is what has happened to the squad? They have been absolutely silent this entire time, except for apparently one tweet packed the court.
Well, Mark, that is a very astute observation on your part. The reason why they have been able to silence them is because I think their internal polls are showing Biden getting his tail kicked next Tuesday.
Or There's been a deal made with them already.
Oh, they had a
maybe.
deal before. They had a deal when to get Warren out of the race and Sanders out of the race. They made a deal with Sanders and the squad. That deal's been made. I am telling you, what's happening now is every time the squad speaks, you get more voters that go to Trump, and so they're trying to shut them up in the final couple of weeks here to try and help Biden. That's what's going on.
But you know what's funny, though? All these blue states, we'll get back to the guns for just a second.
Yes.
All these blue states are soaring in gun ownership.
Including, well, maybe
California, New
because
York.
you cannot depend on your government to keep order anymore.
That's what's
because
happening.
They don't want the order.
People are going to have to realize if they want to be defended against these the people burning stuff, looting stuff, murdering anti-American fascists, they're going to have to do it themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But
And that's a scary thought for most people. And here's the biggest lie that you are going to hear is if Biden gets elected, everything's going to calm down.
peaceful protest.
And that is probably the most bigoted. That's the biggest lie that the media is telling you now.
Oh,
you
big time.
need Biden because it'll calm everything down.
Mm-hmm.
No, what's going to happen is everything is going to continue on this trajectory of bedlam.
Well, they're going to push for more defunding of more police departments, which the cities that have tried it already have reversed course most of the time because they realize, oh my God, it's like opening the floodgates to crime.
The funniest thing in Portland was now they all have private security, all of their elected officials.
Of course they do.
Because
They're not
there's
stupid.
no police protection. Duh.
Well, it's good for them, but not for you.
Right, exactly. So these politicians are using your tax dollars to pay people to protect them, but they want to defund the police who protect you.
They're paying them to
It's the
protect
same
with
thing like when
guns.
Bloomberg tells you that nobody needs guns surrounded by 9 guys with guns.
As he's
24
surrounded.
hours a day.
24/7 surrounded by men with guns.
Yeah, his life is more important than my family.
He thinks
That's
so.
what he thinks. And the elitist
And
politicians think.
that's where I think we the people has to get up and say, you know what, enough is enough.
We've lost equality under the law.
Mark,
Yeah.
Mark, I'm going to butt in a minute. This is David. And explain exactly what you were saying. Let's look at the two sides. We know if Trump wins, all hell's going to break loose because Antifa and all the rest think that
Orange man bad.
Yeah. Now, on the other side, if Biden were to stump his toe and say something right and win, they're going to think that's their ticket to riding, doing anything they want. They're not going to be thrown in jail. They're not going to serve time. Even if they are thrown in jail, they'll get out about as quick as
With
the
no
door
bail.
swings.
They
No
get
bail.
out before the officer's done with the paperwork.
They won't even lock the door. They'll put him in and
The
let him ride
biggest
out.
problem is that the Democratic controllers, and there's certainly not Biden. He's not even aware. I saw him walking back and forth trying to find the stage the other day. I couldn't
I'd be
believe
surprised
it.
if he's
It
in
looked
control
like
of his
that
own
movie,
bladder.
The Dictator.
You know, Mark, I saw that. He looked like I'm trying to be nice, but he was walking behind the camera, and it looked like he had no idea where he looked like a bumper car.
I'm telling you, if you ever watch the movie
you
The
see that?
Dictator, there's a scene where the imposter comes in and he goes past the stage a few times because he doesn't know where he's supposed to go.
Well, you know what?
The biggest problem here is that they think they have these people under control, and these people are just waiting.
Oh yeah, they do not have. It's like when you work with wild animals. You may have some control over them, but eventually they're still wild animals, and they're going to revert to do what they want to do.
And you know, Roger, to get back to the gun thing, and Mark, you could probably speak to this as well. You know, they're talking about suburban women voting for Biden. Well, you know, if you're out there in the suburbs and you don't have a way to protect yourself, and Roger, this is what we're talking about, what you're talking about, being prepared.
Oh yeah.
These people, the Antifa, the Earn Loot murder crowd, have promised to hit the suburbs.
Oh yeah, because why wouldn't they? There's less police there. Everything is more spread out. It's easier for them to get away if they were to run after Molotoving, cocktailing, whatever they call it now. You know.
Listen, if they can get to a senator's house and break his windows and throw things at his house, what makes you think that any one of us
Is better
are going to
protected.
be protected?
Right.
Police are reactive. On their best days, there's not enough of them.
No.
And that's what's very serious here, is they're reducing their police departments to where it's basically going to be an ineffective police department.
Right. They're just going to be writing traffic reports, giving speeding tickets.
They're not
That's all
even
they're
going to
going
be
to
able
do.
to do that.
Right, and they
because
can't-
they're not
they're-
going to
yeah.
have enough officers.
Right.
They're going to have to protect themselves.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
but
you know,
all they're going to be concerned with is raising revenue.
Exactly.
As far as going
So
on
then
cost
they-
to protect
well,
people, well, you know, I
what's
don't want
the
to
s-
expose myself to a possible
Yeah, what's the
lawsuit.
safest thing to do? Well,
I'm
let's go
too
write
far
some
away. I'm on
tickets.
break. I'm out to
Yeah.
lunch. Oh, we're
Yeah.
going to have to come right back. We're
Speaking
taking
of
a quick
break.
break. You're listening to America's Web Radio. I'm Roger B. Well, with Mark the Shark and Victor Armendariz on Locked and Loaded.
McAllister's Auto Transport is a privately held company celebrating our 75th anniversary this November, specializing in enclosed-only transportation to the OEM, personal snowbird market, and our favorite market of all is the collector market. Give us a call at 800-748-3160, or you can reach us on the web at mcallisters.com, and that's McCollisters.com. Large enough to handle all of your transportation needs, small enough to provide you the old town, old school service that you come to expect when you're moving your baby.
If you live to serve and want to make an even bigger difference, consider joining the U.S. Army. With training in fields like medical care, linguistics, and engineering, an Army career can amplify your efforts with humanitarian opportunities all over the world. Plus, you'll receive competitive pay and incredible benefits, so you'll be taken care of, too. Learn more at GoArmy.com.
Whether cruising the Strip in a 57 Chevy or taking the family on a vacation in a 71 Oldsmobile Vista Cruiser, you need to tune in to Classic Cars with Steve Ronaldo and Jim Weber every Saturday from 8 to 9 a.m. on americaswebradio.com.
You're listening to America's Web Radio on the AmericasBroadcastNetwork.com. Thank you for listening.
And we're back. This is Roger B. This is Locked and Loaded, and you're listening to America's Web Radio. And now I'm going to tell you real quick that, you know, the gun ownership in the blue states is soaring. Over half the gun sales in California were to people who have never owned a weapon before. So people who've never even thought about it, never thought they needed it, are buying guns in record numbers. And there's been over 5 million new gun owners in the country alone, from what they can tell. Now, granted, this doesn't include people who maybe got a gun from their dad or their grandfather, was handed something, or, you know, bought several guns and gave them to kids. You know, there's going to be a lot more than that. These are just the numbers where they provide a background check. So if you have a gun permit and never owned a gun, you could go buy a gun and you wouldn't be in these numbers. But the numbers are there, and they're staggering. People realize the police are floundering, the governments are not supporting the police departments, and the police departments are getting to the point where they don't want to risk themselves or their families in order to protect people who don't back them up. So it's coming. If you don't have one, you need to get one. Because by next Tuesday, it may be too late. Because if Biden gets in office, he's already said he's going to ban semi-automatic weapons pretty much across the board, anything he considers an assault weapon. And his definition is so broad, it's going to cover every single semi-automatic weapon there is. So, I mean, like Mark up in New York, he already can't have most of the standard weapons that we consider just part of a staple.
Nope, he has to have frozen paintballs.
It's basically they want you defenseless and dependent.
Right. Well, isn't that the government? Isn't that the whole? If you notice when they were debating, all Joe was talking about, we need to have a program in place. Whenever he said that, he meant government-controlled program. The government needs to step in and provide this, provide that, provide the other. They don't want independent Americans taking control of a situation and doing anything for themselves. Because you can't control
Then
people
you
who are
can't control
dependent.
people.
That's right.
I want you to. I want to interrupt a minute again, and get back to what your subject was, because I'm interested in what you have to say about what to wear. Body armor.
Yes. Okay, yes.
We'll get into some body armor, and
This
Mark
is
might need to take notes.
Yeah, this is something I've been looking at.
I think it even comes in your size, Mark.
Hey, a little more lockdown. It's going to be we're going to need a bigger one.
Oh
Yeah.
gosh.
Now, apparently,
That's
this
been
is
my story all my life.
This is from the 26th of October. Apparently, there's been a few companies out there who are reporting that orders and purchases of military-style gear have been through the roof. They're running out of everything. People are buying anything military they can think of, military-style clothing, backpacks, and especially body armor. Now, body armor is something that, surprisingly enough, even though I didn't know this, it's legal in almost every state to buy either through the mail or face-to-face. So even in New York and California, you can buy body armor through the mail and have it delivered to your house with no ID, no checks, no nothing.
Yeah, it's sort of like voting in New York.
It's no IDs, nothing. But that's actually a good thing though, that people can actually get this. You can get it. Now there's only a couple states that have weird restrictions, and I found a list of every state with the restrictions, and generally speaking, most states do not allow convicted felons to own or wear body armor in any circumstances. That's pretty much across the board. And this was I found unusual. It's also illegal for them to wear body armor in the commission of a crime. So, but I guess they're committing a crime anyway, so this is just something they're going to throw on top of.
Most criminals don't read the statutes before they commit their crime.
It's just they're going to throw on a few more years for, oh, by the way, you were wearing a bulletproof vest, we're going to throw you in jail for an extra couple of years, or delay your parole for a few years. But I want to see, it can be shipped to 49 states directly. Now, the only state that you cannot order body armor directly to is Connecticut. Now, this is just kind of weird. I'm going to read through this one state's
Blumenthal
restrictions.
state. I wonder why.
Oh, is it? Okay. I didn't know. I didn't know why. I thought Connecticut was, I didn't realize they were that restrictive. But
well, no, they're probably all not Vietnam veterans. That's why.
Oh, maybe. That's right. He made that false statement, didn't he? But
He's made several more, but that's okay.
Prohibited from purchasing or selling body armor with the exception of a face-to-face sale, which means if you're selling body armor online, you're only allowed to sell to residents of Connecticut where they can meet you, see them. They have to come into a store to buy it. If you have it and you didn't, I guess, register it or buy it directly, it's 6-month imprisonment and $1,000 fine, both to deliver or sell body armor except where the transferee personally meets with the transferor to complete the sale.
Blumenthal needs some.
Yeah, he might. I mean, oh my God. So it's a Class
When
B
he
misdemeanor.
defunds the police, he's going to need it.
So that's
right.
weird. So you cannot order body armor in Connecticut and have it shipped to your house, while every other state it is legal to do so.
Well, let me ask you a question. Are there different levels of body
Oh,
armor?
yes, we're getting to that. And in Kansas, this I thought was unusual too. In Kansas, it is not legal to carry, wear, or possess bulletproof vests during parades, rallies, demonstrations, assemblies, and or protests. But, that doesn't affect somebody selling it because they don't know what you're going to do with it. That's for you to know.
So you can go to a Biden campaign and wear body armor because nobody's going to mess with you anyway?
Except in
there's
Kansas.
nobody there.
Except in Kansas. Right. So there's
You don't
different.
see a lot of, you don't see a lot of conservative groups beating up protesters.
No, of course not, because they think, they are truly peaceful protesters. But there's different levels of body armor. Most soft body armor, as it's called, is pretty much the same. It's usually layers of some sort of fabric, usually Kevlar, piled to probably about a half-inch thick or so, 3/8, a half-inch thick, and it provides protection against almost all pistol cartridges, with the exception of a pistol that fires a rifle cartridge. But that's we're going to consider those rifles in this case. But then when it comes to protecting against a rifle, you generally have to take the soft armor, and there are pockets in the front, the back, sometimes the sides, the bottom. There's even a little pouch that can hang down in front of the family jewel area. Yes, the family jewels can be protected by an extra piece of body armor. But these plates fit in pockets that are designed to go in front of soft body armor. Because the biggest thing, and now these just usually protect chest and back, occasionally have some on the side by the kidneys. Now the reason why all body armor doesn't have plates is because plates are heavy. They're called ballistic plates. And what you want to know is that the soft armor will protect you against like most smaller cartridges, but it can be bent around. It's flexible, while the plates are generally very hard, so they have to be run in pieces, or they run in large plates and they have to cut them out for you to move and get your head through and stuff. You can't it doesn't bend with you. It's not going to move. And most soft body armor has a National Institute of Justice rating of 2 and 2A and 3A, which repels handguns. Okay, but now if you need ballistic plates, these are going to protect against more powerful projectiles. And this is going to require hard armor. And hard armor, like I say, does not move as much. It doesn't give you as much flexibility, and it's heavy, which means if you wear this and want to get out and run around with it, you're going to be carrying a lot of extra weight. Ballistic plate materials. Okay, ceramic plates. These are usually pretty thick, and they have various layers of material, but ceramic is one of the main things because it will soak up the energy. And they use Kevlar and steel in some of them, powdered steel. But the thing about ceramic plates is they are fragile, believe it or not. You can throw one onto the ground and it can crack, which of course would limit its ability to protect you after that. They said that typical material in ceramic plates is alumina oxide, but if you want, a lighter plate, choose one of silicon carbide. But it costs so much more that it's hard, it gets expensive. And these provide a level rating of level 4 of the National Institute of Justice Protection rating. Now, the problem with ceramic plates also is because they are fragile, when a bullet hits it, it will stop the shot. But the way it's designed, it actually soaks up the impact by fracturing and breaking. It can take several hits, but after, several hits, it's going to become less and less effective the more it gets hit. Hopefully you won't get shot in the ceramic plate too many times. And the thing about
return fire, you probably won't.
Yeah, that's the idea. It buys you some time to find out where you're being fired upon and return fire, or get to a place where you can make yourself safe. Now, these can add, they're about 7.5 pounds each. So if you just wear a front plate and a back plate in ceramic, you're talking 15 pounds plus what your vest weighs already. And
is there like an average weight of a vest?
It depends on the size. Most of them are probably around 10 to 12 pounds. You can buy a smaller, lighter one with less protection, and they can be as light as 3 to 4 pounds. Depends on what the carrier is, too. If you have a full military-style carrier, it's going to have loops on the outside for attaching things. It's going to be a thicker material, and it's not designed to go underneath clothes. If you buy a thinner, smaller, lighter one, it has less coverage, but it fits more snugly. It's actually fitted to you better, and it's designed to wear a shirt or jacket over it. So, just depends. Now, you can find the military ones a lot of times at gun shows or military surplus places, and they're cheaper, but they are not the kind that you can wear underneath clothes as well. They have to be worn outside of clothes. So you're wearing that, someone's going to know you have it on.
And they will, talking about heavying up.
Yeah, they are heavier. They'll use a little thicker soft body armor.
Now,
And
here's a quick question for you: is do they also stop knife attacks?
The plates will. The soft body armor depends because it's woven fabric, so you could theoretically get something thin enough and small enough through the fabric. It doesn't happen very often, but it's one of the weaknesses of the soft armor is that if you take an ice pick or something, there's a chance you could penetrate soft body armor with an ice pick. While the plates, the ballistic armor is going to protect you against anything like that: knives, machetes, samurai swords, whatever you happen to be facing at the time. It'll also protect against any kind of impact as well. If someone were to punch you hard enough in the chest, a ballistic plate would help protect you, while soft armor is not going to do as much. And that's something I should mention too. Although they're bulletproof and the bullet will not penetrate, all that energy from whatever's fired against you will transfer to your body. So you may not die, but you will feel like you got punched in the chest by Mike Tyson, because all that energy is going to be transferred to you, even with a plate. Now, a plate will spread out the impact even more so than soft body armor. Soft body armor will spread it out enough to keep it from penetrating the armor, but it will still have a point of impact where you feel a lot more pressure on that one.
I want to know what kind of vest John Wick was wearing in John Wick 3.
Oh, that may have been, polyethylene plates are probably one of the favorites among law enforcement because they're super lightweight. They can resist more bullets than that of a ceramic plate, and they don't need backing materials because they're flexible, so they can help spread out impact better. But of course, they're much more expensive than regular plates. Of course, John Wick probably had the most expensive type of stuff ever.
And what kind of material is it?
It's called polyethylene.
Polyethylene. I'm writing that down.
Okay, yeah. Now, if you're interested, I got most of this information. There's a place called bulletproofzone.com, and they list a lot of this stuff. They sell a lot of stuff also. So I'm not saying anything about their company or their products, but they do have a lot of information about body armor, and most of it can be found on the web. But the polyethylene is good because it has resilience and low weight, and it enables you to move more because it's going to be less weight and a little more flexible and a little thinner than some of the other plates. Now, standard plates are made out of AR 500 or some type of heavy-duty steel. They're fairly thin, 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch, and they will protect you against multiple hits, but they are heavy. One of these plates can probably come in at 8 to 10 pounds. And if you're wearing 2 of them, front and back, and any side plates, you're adding 30 pounds to the weight of your vest. Granted, they will work almost indefinitely unless you get hit a bunch of times in the same spot over and over. They are very resilient to multiple hits, and they offer great protection. And that would be something like, say, if you can buy these ballistic plates, and they're fairly inexpensive because they're just made of, they're made out of armored steel, and steel is relatively cheap. But again, you have the heavy. So if you just want to get started, you don't want to spend a lot of money, buy some steel plates, put them in a vest. You'll have protection front and back. Even without the soft armor in place, you can use that. So, and then there's cuts also, because instead of just a square plate, a lot of these ballistic plates are cut in different ways. Like they have a shooter's cut. A shooter's cut has a ballistic plate that's rectangular, but it has the corners cut off so you can move your arms better. Enables you to run, enables you to shoulder a rifle. If you're carrying weapons or artillery on your shoulder, it enables you to not have that corner digging into your shoulder while you're trying to run. And then they have what they call a swimmer's cut, which is a modified shooter's cut. It just gives you more portion of that corner removed so you can actually get arms over your head and be climbing and stuff like that. And there's different ratings on the plates. Okay, we determined the National Institute of Justice has a level 4 for ballistic plates. Now, the military has labeling for these. They have SAPI, S-A-P-I, which stands for Small Arms Protective Inserts. And now, depending on whatever plate cut you get or what material you get, most of them are going to be, they're all considered small arms protective inserts, any kind of ballistic plate. So that doesn't really give you anything to do with its rating. It's a military example. It's what they use to label it with.
The other thing, too, that has to be mentioned, I think, is circumstance. It's like in the military, everybody's heard of the flak jacket. Well, that's if you're going into a zone that it's not really as much for the bullets as it is bombs that may explode. Or
Shrapnel.
Shrapnel, yeah. Exactly. So
right, smaller stuff that's not moving as fast as the bullet. Yeah, that's like the soft body armor will protect you against pistol rounds only, and it'll also protect against shrapnel and things like that. But a rifle round is not going to be stopped by soft body armor or a flak jacket. That's probably the closest analogy. The flak jacket now is called a soft body armor. But you have to know that when you fit this stuff, you have to know it's got to fit properly. It's still going to be heavy, but you have to decide how you're going to get this. Now, also, one more thing with the military ratings, there's an ESAP. Now, this is a enhanced small arms protective inserts. So they are made a little bit better. They're a little higher rating. Now, a lot of this stuff you can't get some of the latest stuff just because it's military access only to some of it. But most of it can be bought by almost anybody, and it can be shipped right to your house, or you can buy it in person, and it works. And if you don't believe in guns, get your whole family body armor.
One other thing all of this goes back to planning. And, just like you and I have talked many times. Preparation, but is knowing I'm going to be hiding behind a brick wall, I'm going to be hiding behind this or that or whatever. And more important than the flak jacket, in my opinion, or the bulletproof vest or whatever, in my opinion, is the ability to move and change positions, do this, do that. And if you've got a heavy vest on, you're slowed down.
Absolutely. You have a trade-off there. The more weight you add, the more protection you have, the less mobility you have, especially if you're carrying weapons, ammo, extra magazines. All this stuff is going to weigh you down. Unless you are in excellent shape. I mean, I know round is a shape, and that's the shape I'm in right now, but but unless I'm in better shape than that, I'm going to be slowed down tremendously by wearing body armor, carrying a weapon, and all the stuff I need to do. So, it's something you have to consider. But you want to be as well protected as possible without limiting your mobility. And people say, well, I don't think I'm ever going to need it, but I'll buy the cheapest stuff I can. It's just like with a car. You know, do you buy the cheapest car you can with the lowest safety rating, or do you buy the car with the best safety rating because you want to be protected just in case? So,
You know, and let me throw out or ask a question as well. We've been talking about the body armor and so forth. What about your HAID? I mean, there are not that many shots that are that, or people that are shooters that are that good.
oh, they're ballistic helmets, though. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're hard ballistic helmets. Most of them. Some of the older ones were just Kevlar with a polymer inside of them, and they protect against most pistol bullets. And unless a rifle round was direct right angle, it could deflect a lot of those as well. The newer ones are cut differently, though. They're cut up over your ears, so you can actually hear or run, wear some sort of hearing device.
Well, here's
speaking
an
device.
interesting Biden-era question. Do they make ballistic face masks?
They do. They do, and you can get these, and they look really funny because they have two little holes cut out in the front for your eyes, and the bottom of the nose is cut out so you can breathe, and a little mouth hole sometimes. And
Antifa style.
yeah, they look funny, but they work, and they're heavy, though. Again, you can get whatever protection you want to cover almost anything you can imagine, but everything you wear adds weight. You wear all this stuff, you're going to be very difficult to be able to move at all. So if you're willing to just sit there and hunker down in place, and you have a good place to sit down where you figure you could fire back if you had to, then wear everything. Or buy ballistic panels. You can buy ballistic panels, just square panels, pile them up, sew them to, have a package that sews them together so you can fold them out and protect yourself inside a house. Have it sitting against the bottom ledge of the window, from the bottom of the window down, so you can hide behind it.
Well, you see, you guys might be very courteous in a gunfight and say, excuse me, I need to put up a plate. Hold on a second. In New York, we'd be shooting you while you're trying to put your plate in.
Well, yeah. Well, no, you'd have to have it ready to go. I mean, I keep a set of body armor in my closet in the bedroom because I don't want to have to run down where I keep other body armor and have to go find it. It's right there. I can put it on in a moment's notice. You don't want to have to wait to get it or go, oh, let me get it out of the closet. Oh, let me put the plates in. Oh, let me adjust this thing. Put it on, size it up, set whatever adjustments can be set. A lot of them have Velcro straps, which you can preset. So you just slide it on, slap them in, you're good to go. But if you don't, then you're going to have to be pulling it tighter or adjusting it or loosening it to make it fit like it's supposed to fit. You want to have it pre-fit. Put it on, size it, get it set up so it can just be thrown over your head, wrapped around, locked in, and ready to go. So that's something to consider also. Part of being prepared. But
preparation.
That's right. Now, David mentioned a minute ago when you hide behind something. That's two things that you have to consider there. There are two ways to basically hide. One is concealment and one is cover. Concealment just means you cannot be seen. You're hiding behind maybe a piece of sheetrock or something, which will not protect you from a bullet, but if you can't be seen, you're harder to shoot. Cover is literally something thick enough or hard enough to protect you against gunfire. If you're hiding behind brick walls, that would be cover. Behind a vehicle, that would be cover, because you're less likely, you won't be shot through cover. While concealment, you can be shot through, but you can't be seen. So keep that in mind. Cover conceals your position without protecting you, but cover will actually protect you from any possible, projectiles.
Until
armor piercing?
No, until you shoot back and they see the flash and
Right.
they know where you are.
Right, and that's, but the thing with cover, your brick wall is going to soak up a lot of rounds before they get through it. So the idea is to change your position frequently, never shoot from the same position. This is really a good thing to play paintball.
Yeah.
Good thing to learn while you play paintball. Change your position. Don't fire from the same position too many times because you will be discovered eventually. They'll see where it's coming from and they'll come for you. Whether you have cover or concealment, they're coming for you.
Look at this. It's like a bilingual program. It's regular arms and paintball.
Yeah, right.
There's a totally different situation where you are, Mark, and in New York and so forth. I would say from my standpoint, in a suburb, all of my doors are well protected with very good locks. And if you can stop them at the door, not many people are going to jump through a window, particularly if it's high enough. And, just stop them at the door.
Right.
Yeah,
well, that'd be ideal.
Most of the areas that I would say are in, or at least are going to be penetrated, are going to be your sliding glass doors, are going to be your low basement windows. where they're going to throw something through the window and then come in.
And gain access, right? That's where you have to be preemptive in some cases. I don't know what the laws are in New York. In Georgia, I believe they have to actually be either trying to enter the house or enter the house before you're allowed to shoot them.
Well, if I were advising a client, I would tell them wait until they're in the house.
Right. That I think is the legal way. You have to wait. Now, I wonder what kind of protection you would have if you see them holding a lit Molotov cocktail, getting ready to throw it at your house. In that case,
that would be deadly force versus deadly force, and I would bet on the side of taking that guy down.
Yeah, I think I would take that chance.
That Molotov cocktail. However,
or at least shoot the Molotov cocktail in his hand.
That's right.
I would make sure that there was enough video evidence, because you know that the other 30 people outside your house are going to have a different story than the facts.
Right. We've seen that in the McCloskey case up in Missouri, when those people were just sitting on their own patio telling these people, get off my lawn, with their weapons out after they
interesting enough, every one of those cases against the protesters, or I should say the invaders, has been dropped.
And they're not being prosecuted for it, I know. They had breaking and entering charges, trespassing charges, and none of the protesters are being prosecuted for anything, which is
there's actually been a rumor that at least one or two of them did have weapons at the time they broke through.
And they were making terroristic threats. They said they were going to kill them, kill their pets, sleep in their bedrooms.
But where they had breaking and entering was the front gates of the subdivision.
Right.
They didn't break into a house, or
They did
didn't
not.
break into somebody's house or anybody's house. But so where does that leave the individuals that are protecting their property when they've broken through the gates
to private property, but not into your personal home?
Yeah.
Well, I can
know.
tell you from a standpoint in New York, which is kind of absurdly liberal, is you better be in the house. If he breaks into your backyard and he's running around your backyard, you can't take him out.
Right.
If he comes through that front door and he's in a threatening, menacing manner, I would believe that you would be able to take him out.
Now that's where the non-lethal would come in very handy if they were in the yard.
Correct. That would definitely slow him down a lot.
That's what I've got. It's a non-lethal AR-15.
There you go.
Yeah.
Is that Biden's AR-14 that he was talking about?
Yes. It's amazing.
Carmela's wife.
Fully semi-automatic.
Listen,
Yeah.
Joe will find eventually the stage. I'm hopeful.
Now, it's neat, though. They have available, I think I saw this the other day. I didn't get the story, but it's an air rifle, pneumatic air rifle, which means you pump up a canister to hold the air, and it is fully automatic. Holds about 28 to 30-something rounds, and you pull the trigger, it fires until you let go or until it's empty. And that's perfectly legal for any citizen to own, because it is not a firearm. It doesn't use an explosive charge to project a projectile.
So
Propel
like
it.
a pellet gun?
Yeah, it's a pellet gun, fully automatic pellet gun.
Gee, where do you get one?
There's a bunch. You research. It's a company called Hatsan, Hatsan, and they make it. There's probably there's fully automatic BB guns out there too. They're out there. There's plenty of them out there, and they're legal to own. If you can own a BB gun or pellet gun in your state, it's legal to have a fully automatic one with no additional licensing, no tax stamps, nothing else. And these are 22 caliber pellets that come out of the barrel at over 1,000 feet per second.
I was just going to ask you if you knew the velocity.
Yep, and that's comparable to a 22 long rifle bullet. You know, it's a little lighter weight, but it's coming out at almost the same velocity. 22 long rifle standard is about 1,000 to 1,100. High velocity is about 1,250.
What do they run?
I want to say they're about $700 to $1,000. They're not cheap by any means. I mean, you can buy an AR-15 cheaper. But technologically, they're really cool.
It's just getting those damn pellets in the AR-15.
Yeah, they don't fit quite so well. But it's a circular magazine that just loads into the front of it, and you can have multiple magazines, but they go through they fire quickly. So you can empty one in probably under 2 seconds. So,
wow.
But it's like 30 rounds, I think, or 25 rounds, somewhere between 25 and 30, depending on the caliber, because they go from 17 up to, I think, 25 or 30 caliber. So you can get some pretty big pellets flying out of there at fully automatic velocities, and it's just it would be devastating at close range especially. But even out to 40, 50 yards, that would be enough to where you could certainly penetrate skin if it's still holding velocity at that range. And like I
guess
say,
the question would be: what is the range on the gun?
Well, 22 caliber pellet at that velocity, you're probably 40 to 50 yards pretty easily. It'll go over 100 yards, but whether it has any penetrative power at that point, I don't know.
Right.
It would probably lose. I mean, it would still sting. Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't want to stand at 100 yards and have somebody shoot one of those things at me, especially with 10, 15, 20 projectiles coming at me all at once.
Particularly, it might put your eye out.
Who?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You'll put your eye
Unless you
out.
had your Joe Biden tactical face mask on.
Yes. Because Joe Biden thinks the Red Ryder is the best protective gun there is.
Can you get, for Biden's sake, can you get something that protects your ass too?
You can get body armor for anything. It just weighs a little more.
What about your mouth?
Isn't that the same thing on him?
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Yeah, I got those mixed up. He had a facial colonoscopy.
No, that was before or after lobotomy.
Oh, my.
I think it's time to go.
Yes, it is. Thanks, Mark, for being on. Appreciate
Thank
the
you
call
guys for
in.
the opportunity. Have a great week.
I'm Roger B. This has been Locked and Loaded, and you've been listening to America's Web Radio.